Fedora Virtual Showcase community update. So I get to go first here, which is great. Just going to take a few minutes here to reacquaint everybody with the Fedora community, how we operate, what we've accomplished, and kind of what we have planned for the upcoming year. So I know that it has been a while. I think I mentioned this since we've all been together kind of in this format or any format really. So this is a chance to bring everybody up to speed, what we've been working on and what we have planned for the future. So as I mentioned, my name's Arran. I'm the program manager at Fedora here. So I actually started with the program back in 2020, and I was just brought on as the part-time community engagement coordinator alongside David Wilcox. And I officially moved into this position full-time in May 2022. So just a little over a year in this role. A few little bit about me to get to know me, a little personal thing. So I live in Moncton, New Brunswick in Atlantic Canada, which is eastern coast. Originally from Toronto though, and moved out here to go to college, university, and kind of stayed. So it's beautiful in the summer. The Maritimes is gorgeous. I'm not a big fan of winter, so sometimes I struggle through winter out here, but it's all good. So I have a daughter who's turning 7 next week. Things I like to do in my spare time. So I run long distance running. I've run a few marathons in my time, and I've run too many half marathons to count. So I think maybe one of my biggest achievements was being able to qualify for the 2020 Boston Marathon. So for anybody that runs distance knows that the time qualifications to get to Boston are pretty fast. Can't say I've replicated that since, but that's okay. Maybe we'll get back there one day. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me. I am going to move over here, and we are perfect. So so this is our team. Fedora as a program has its organizational home at Lyrasis. So anybody that's unfamiliar with Lyrasis, Lori Arp, who is the director of our department, she's going to be talking on Thursday, I believe, but Lyrasis is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to support enduring access to our shared academic, scientific, and cultural heritage materials. So they offer organizational home support and stewardship of several other open source programs, some of them which you might be familiar with, things like DSpace, Vivo, Archive Space, and Collection Space. And we all exist as part of the Community Supported Technology and Hosting Services Department, which Lori's the director of. So, being our organizational home, we have the really, really fortunate ability to draw on the expertise from across the organization. So John Wilkin is our CEO, and many of you may recognize his name. He joined us just in December of 2022. And then we also have Lori Arp, who I mentioned is our departmental director. And Lori brings, a wealth of experience and knowledge, for which I know I'm personally grateful, but, she helps all of the community supported programs in their own way. So our program team here is small but mighty. You already know me. I'm the program manager. We have Dan Field, who joined us in January of 2023 as our program developer. So Dan joins us in half-time capacity and spends the other half of his time at the National Library of Wales. So Dan, has a lot of experience working directly with Fedora. National Library is a Fedora shop, thankfully. So, he brings all of that experience from his home institution. He also served a term on Fedora governance prior to joining us here. So we're really grateful that he's bringing also, that experience to the team. Then we also have Mike Ritter as part of our program team. He's a contract developer who works alongside Dan and the tech and committer teams to assist with development work. And then I just want to give a big shout out here to our active committers and the tech team. So these are the folks who routinely show up to our weekly tech meetings. They contribute ideas, solutions, code, development, and they're generally the ones that are responding to most of the support questions. So in Slack or via any of the listservs. And we are really, really fortunate to have these individuals with us. Some of them are longstanding committers who were instrumental in bringing Fedora to its current state. And I just want to take a moment to thank them. Our current list of active individuals right now, we have Ben Pennell from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Jared Wicklow from the University of Manitoba, Damien Katz from Villanova, Doran Shalvey from National Library of Medicine, and Calvin Shu from the National Library of Medicine. We also have Thomas Bernhardt from DocuTeam and James Alexander from the Open University. So as you can see, also here, there, oh shoot, I missed it. So the program team is really little, but there's an opening here. You too can be on this list. So we're always looking for additional help and anybody that's interested in getting involved. Dan's going to talk a little bit about this next, but you'll see through the course of the next 2-3 days that there's lots of opportunity to help. So I'm just putting that there, and you can feel free. This can be you. All right, so being a community-led program, our direction and priorities are established by our Fedora governance group. So governance is comprised of individuals from institutions who are Fedora members, members meaning that they contribute financially to the program via membership. We also, though, on governance, hold 2 community seats for individuals that are not members, but have either shown commitment to the community in some form or have interest in getting more involved in those kind of decision-making conversations. So our goal really is always to have the best representation from a very broad group from within the community. So this is how we try to be very intentional in the way that governance operates. So making sure that we're bringing folks in from the community at large. So overall, this is how kind of the program functions. Ultimately, we are all here for the entire Fedora community. Everything that we do is to ensure that the community is operating in the best interest of all of our users. We're working to support our users through governance and through the priorities that we set to support as many people as possible. So we really are here to support our community of users, which is you. So this year, we're actually really excited to be celebrating 20 years since the initial beta release of Fedora version 1. So obviously a lot has changed and we've been through a lot as a community, but I think we really should take a moment and just be really proud of what Fedora represents today. Version 6 was really a long time coming, and it is a culmination of all of the feedback and the needs of our users being met in one release. And it took a while to get here, but I think what we have right now is something that's really strong. And from what we're hearing from our users, it's doing exactly what we always wanted Fedora to do. So we're currently on version 6.4, which was released, I believe, in June of this year. And you can see there are additional tools that come along with that and some integration pieces that are in active use in a lot of implementations that we have, that we know about. Based on a self-report registry that Lyrasis maintains for us, we have approximately 300 known installations or more 300 or more installations from around the world of different versions of Fedora. And this represents only the known ones, right? This is only what's in the registry. So this is a wide range of users from varying sizes of institutions and different institution types. You can probably tell that just by looking around the people that are in the room here today with us and seeing the types of presentations that we're about to see in the next 3 days. There's a lot of variety in our community. So I mentioned some of these individuals earlier, but we're also fortunate to have this small but really actively engaged committer and tech team, all working to make sure that the software is functioning and it's evolving in ways to suit the community and the users. The community offers a number of ways to get involved, and I'm going to mention some. Dan's going to talk about some of that later on today, but we're obviously never discouraging in engagement of any kind and participation. So we welcome everybody of all skill levels to join in. And we're also excited to be back in person in many places. So I've had the opportunity to be out at conferences, meet some of you face to face, and I look forward to more of that in the future. So for us, and I think the program, this has been really important. And for us, it's a way to get back to our users, to our community, and hear about what you're doing, talk about what's working, what's not, be able to answer questions, and then meet new people. So I'm generally not the shy one at conferences. So anybody that's met me at a conference can probably attest to that. But please, if we do happen to be in the same space, take a moment and come up and say hi, introduce yourself, let me know, what you're working on. I would really love to take a moment and get to know you. So I'm still relatively new at this on the conference scene, if you will. So I'm really only having the chance to put faces to names now and make those connections. So do not hesitate to find me and come join a conversation. So this is, I think this is probably one of my favorite slides from this whole presentation. So this is users, this is our ever-growing list of users on Fedora 6. So I mentioned that Fedora 6 was released in June 2021, and even as late as last year, we only have like 6 to 8 known institutions that were either on or migrating to Fedora 6. And today we're happy to share this list. And so maybe after this, these 3 days, this event, we'll be able to add even more people to this list. I'm trying to keep it as up to date as possible, but obviously being open source, we don't always know what's being used and where it's being used. So the list on the left is users with production or live instances of Fedora, whether they're public facing or not. And then on the right, we have ones that are in the process of migrating, different stages of the migration process, but actively working on it. And then there are these 2 institutions that we recently heard from, the people that are responsible for it, but they're spinning up fresh instances of Fedora 6. So there's lots of exciting things here to share for sure. And I think most of the users around the community and the folks on this list specifically have really been more than willing to talk about their experience in migration, discuss their processes, talk about what worked and what didn't. So there's a series of blog posts that these institutions have volunteered to participate in. So you can find those on the Fedora website, and I'll share a link with you after. But there's really lots of ways to give back. So if you're working on things, telling your user story, writing blog posts, things like that, there's lots of ways to give information back to the community. So I just want to take a minute and thank anybody that has written a blog post for me. All those stories, both the good and the bad, they're all important. And so next we have definitely a lot to celebrate over the last few years, and certainly since the last time that we gathered. I mentioned that we were back on the conference circuit, both in person and virtually. So I think I've presented at something like 10 different speaking engagements in the last year, which is a lot. We've been able to talk about and present Fedora information in some spaces that are relatively new for us, which is great. And so we're always looking for that chance to meet potential new users or talk to people that are doing things in different circles than we kind of normally operate. So, so that's really exciting. I think maybe people might get sick of hearing me talk soon. So I would love to collaborate on presentations with folks if anybody has interest in doing so. I have collaborated with some institutions to help draft proposals. If people are looking to get to a certain conference or looking for opportunities to talk about their work that involve Fedora, I'm more than willing to assist in drafting proposals to get to these, conferences. That's another way to kind of non-technically contribute. If you're looking for ways to give back to the community, I think people hearing user stories from users directly and less from the program team is a really impactful way to share your work. So, I'm here for that. And so if anybody has interest, please feel free to reach out. This year, we also welcomed 4 brand new members to our Fedora governance group last term. So everybody that was new is still here, which is great. It means we didn't scare them off. And then also last year, we finalized about a year's worth of strategic planning. We were using the It Takes a Village framework that is a program that is at Lyrasis as well. It's to help open source programs really refine and decide on ways to plan strategically for the future for sustainability of the programs. So we were fortunate to be able to use that, and we're now in the action phase of our work here. So you might have seen that come across in some of the things that are taking place, i.e. this session, but the technology information gathering sessions that we held in the spring, that was one of the actions that came out of our strategic planning that's intended to help us build a community-led roadmap that we're hoping to get a handle on in the next coming months. And then lastly, I keep bringing him up, we were fortunate to be able to welcome Dan Field to the team as our program developer, which is awesome. And from a technology side of things, we had 2 version releases last year, which may or may not seem like a lot, but at the same time, this is the result of the time that it takes to implement a migration and then actually executing it, along with the fact that, we're hearing that Fedora 6 is doing what it's supposed to for people, which doesn't exactly leave a large feature roadmap or feature request list on our plates, which is great because it's been allowing us to be able to focus our energy on supporting these migrations, gathering the user stories, things like that, and then ensuring that all the tooling that we have available to support the migrations are working. Make sure the documentation's up to date, things like that. So it's really kind of a fortunate situation for us right now to be able to be in this mode of supporting the migration work. On the note of migration, in February, we wrapped up the 2-year-long IMLS grant-funded migration project, and we were able to release the migration toolkit. So this is a comprehensive guide for migrating from Fedora 3 to 6 directly, and it, again, comes complete with best practices, templates, the tool, links to all of the tools required to actually execute the 3 to 6 migration. So a really big effort by our fabulous program team that was involved, and our 2 pilot partners from the University of Virginia and Whitman College. We also held several community involved conversations to help us better understand some very specific use cases that had come across through support channels, and try to find ways and solutions to help these users. So there are recordings of the Docker and OCFL conversations on our Fedora YouTube channel, and I can point you to that if you're interested in any of those topics. And then anybody here from the Samvera community may have seen the conversation circling about the Hyrax Fedora working group that was recently formed. So this is a collaborative effort across our 2 communities to help find a migration path forward for Hyrax and Fedora users that are looking to update or migrate to the most recent versions of both softwares. So there's some great talks coming in the next few days about this work and work that the individual institutions are doing to get there. So. Oh, now I'm going the wrong way. There we go. So that's a lot of what we did, and we have a lot to celebrate there. But looking ahead, we also have a lot to be excited about. So like I mentioned, we have this Hyrax Fedora working group, which is exciting. We are working on building that community-led technology roadmap, coming out of those future technology information gathering sessions that we did. There's some work on performance testing that we're hoping to do, and some website and, oh, that says website twice. It's supposed to be wiki and website updates. So there is a working group that we have formed. We haven't met recently, but we're working on making sure that the website and the wiki space, that the documentation is easy to find and it's up to date, things like that. So that's more to come. We have this new Fedora member benefits and opportunities. So governance was really strategic last year in trying to find ways to make governance more accessible to more institutions. So we were able to open up some new opportunities to join Fedora governance, and we are, constantly revising and looking for ways to increase the opportunities and the benefits to Fedora members. So this is work that's ongoing. Nope, this way. Yep. And there is, again, this cross-community collaborations and outreach piece that we are that we're working with. So with the Samvera community, with the OCFL community, and some work getting started with the Islandora community. So we recognize that Fedora is not a standalone solution, and that it is important for us to maintain these relationships and work collaboratively to support all users. So there's a lot of work being done in this area. There's potential opportunity for some grant-funded projects and feature development. So coming out of this, maybe there is some things that come up that might hit a feature development, might hit a feature request, things like that. So this is something that we're definitely always open to and looking for. So. And then just lastly here, these are ways to get connected. So you likely are here because you are connected in some way already, but just as a reminder, join us on Slack. There's the general migration and tech channels. We have a weekly tech meeting that takes place every Thursday at 11 Eastern. And I imagine some of you have already heard this pitch from me, but it truly is intended to be all levels. We would love to have you come out and join the tech meeting, talk about your use case, talk about your implementation, just to help us understand what's being done out in the wild, we'll call it. We do save space. We've formatted the tech meeting so that there's space at the beginning of each meeting for pop-up topics, you don't need to like RSVP in advance. You can literally hop in to talk about that. If you have a question, don't feel like it's intended for technical things only. That tech meeting is a space for you to come and ask those questions if you need a quick response. So every Thursday at 11 Eastern, you can sign up for any of our mailing lists. We have a series of mailing lists that we operate, and they have different uses. And I think Dan's going to talk about that in just a few minutes. We also have a monthly newsletter. This is a low traffic kind of sign up mailing list. All you'll get if you sign up for the mailing list is the monthly newsletter, and you will it just is a recap of everything that's been happening in the community over the last month. This is where we'll share those blog stories, migration stories, things like that, and upcoming events, places we're going to be, which is kind of the next thing on the slide here. So these are the next before the end of the year, these are the places that I will be. So next week I'm actually presenting the kind of intro to Fedora and OCFL workshop at iPres on Tuesday of next week. So that's at Urbana-Champaign at the University of Illinois. I will be at Samvera Connect in Philadelphia, which is in October. And then we were also accepted to give the intro to Fedora workshop. So if you miss it at iPres, we are giving it as well at Learn at DLF, which is always, I believe, the Sunday before the actual event starts, but I will be at the whole event straight through DigiPres. So if you are planning to attend any of those events, please do come and find me. And I think that is all I have. So I'm going to stop sharing here, and I'm going to leave space for questions. Anybody have any questions? Anything I can answer?